On today's episode, we explore the journey of one amazing woman's path to building her family. Through loss, recurrent loss, secondary infertility, and so much heartache, this is a story of hope for anyone who needs to hear it. Welcome to your journey to fertility. This is the podcast that blends science with spirit to give you all the tools you need as you navigate your fertility journey. I'm your host, Jennifer Edmonds, and for the last 15 years, I've been helping women on their journeys to motherhood and beyond. I believe that combining the latest scientific research along with the best energetic and mindset practices will help you to avoid putting your life on hold and bring you closer to your baby. Each week, you'll learn ways to support your fertility and trust your body so that you can stop stressing that you'll never have your baby and finally walk your path to motherhood. This is the Your Journey to Fertility podcast. Welcome back to the podcast. Today's episode is a special one. So I am speaking to one of my students, Kari, who had a really long and difficult fertility journey for so many different reasons. There were so many ups and downs over many, many years. And I wanted to speak to Kari because when I was in the depths of my own fertility journey and really struggling, I found listening to other people's stories really inspiring and really helpful, especially the ones that had happy endings. So this one, spoiler alert, definitely does. And I just really hope that hearing Kari's words will help inspire you for the year that's coming up. This is one of those conversations where I didn't even stick to any of the questions that I had planned. It just took us on this beautiful journey and we went off in so many tangents and I absolutely loved it. So let's get started. Here's Kari. Kari, welcome to the podcast. It's so lovely to speak with you today. And I was just thrilled when you agreed to come on and share your journey and talk about everything that you've been through. So big welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. And like I said, I think it's an honor to be on your podcast.
Oh, that means a lot. Can we start by just learning a little bit about you and your fertility journey? And you have two beautiful children now, but it wasn't a simple road or a smooth road to getting there. So if you'd like to start maybe at the beginning or anywhere and just share what brings us together here today.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like I have quite a colorful story of fertility, but I'm very blessed to have two beautiful girls. So as I was saying, one is 6 weeks, so pretty fresh, and the other is just about 4. So I'm 38 now. I live in Vancouver, Canada. Just to give some context, I started to try to get pregnant when I think it was 2018. So I might have been about 31 and just thought, I think we all go into it thinking it will just happen, right? And you feel like you have a lot of control and you can time it and plan it. And so I remember we were going on a trip and I thought, well, I don't want to be pregnant on the trip. Let's start after, right? Like you have a lot of control in this. And I think that was in May of 2018. And month after month, nothing was happening. And then, it only takes, I think, 4 or 5 months before you start, for me, turning into myself and thinking, okay, now something is wrong with me. Like it shouldn't be taking this long. And then it was that December. So I guess that's, 7 months that I did become pregnant. But just as quickly as I found out I was pregnant, I lost it. And I wasn't so devastated because I was just thinking, I can get pregnant. Like this is a good sign. You hear a lot of women will have a miscarriage to start and then they go on to have very healthy pregnancies. So then obviously we kept trying and again, tried month after month. And I think it was that June. So again, 6 months later, I became pregnant and I thought, this is it for sure. This is it because I've already had a miscarriage. And I went in for the 8-week ultrasound and they said, you're only measuring 5 weeks. So why don't you come back? And I was, you don't know what you don't know. That's a big red flag, but I didn't know that. So I went in a couple weeks later, I think 2 weeks later, and there was no heartbeat. And so that was absolutely devastating because I thought, how could you have two? And I thought for sure that was my baby. So that one was really hard to recover from. And, this is a lot of information, but I wasn't losing it naturally either, as in the first I did. So I had to go see my doctor. And she suggested a clinic in Vancouver that I could take some options. And I ended up choosing some pills that will help me release it, which was the most painful. Like it's a terrible process to go through. But in her suggesting a clinic in Vancouver, I stumbled across, in BC, we have a women's hospital, BC Women's, and they had a clinic specific for recurrent pregnancy loss. So I had stumbled across this clinic, and if you had 2 miscarriages in a row, you could get a doctor's referral. So she referred me to this clinic. And so they just did lots of testing. So that was kind of the start of the testing. And they test for 4 main things for recurrent pregnancy loss. So they check your thyroid, the shape of your uterus, your blood type, like if you have it's called karyotype, and blood clotting. So they tested for all that, and they did testing for my partner too. And they first thought that maybe I had a septum in my uterus. So they wanted to book me in for a hysteroscopy. Now, this timeline, we're into 2020. So this was all happening in February, March 2020. And I had a friend who had a septum in her uterus, and she had to wait another like 4 or 5 months to get the surgery to remove it. So I was feeling like, because they were shutting down elective surgeries because of COVID. So feeling kind of anxious about it. And I was literally because even though a hysteroscopy is not, and so that's where they put a camera up into your uterus to check out the shape of your uterus. And he told me, if there's a septum, I'll try my best to remove it, knowing that, all the elective surgeries are canceled. And so I was literally his last appointment before they shut it. So I was so thankful to have this. So as they're doing the appointment, it's like in real time. And he says, no septum. I thought, oh my God, I couldn't believe it. And so while he was in there, he took a biopsy of my uterus and checks out the fallopian tubes, and all looks normal. And I think he called me. Oh, and also, sorry, when I think it was around that time I was in their care, I got pregnant again, but had another miscarriage. They had told me if I can to collect the tissue because they could test it. So it's kind of that like a pretty awkward experience. But I managed to keep the tissue and collect it. So then I was waiting before, again, they shut everything down for COVID, waiting for the results of my biopsy, them to test that tissue from the 3rd miscarriage. And we were still waiting for the karyotype results. And then the doctor called a couple weeks later and said, we got everything back. Everything is normal. And so all my thyroid, the blood clotting, the karyotype, the shape of my uterus, the biopsy, the reason I had that 3rd miscarriage was like chromosome 22 was duplicated 3 times at like 100% that ends in miscarriage, very normal reason. So when I heard that, I just thought, I give up. Like it's been at that point, almost 2 years of trying, 3 miscarriages, which I was told from this recurrent pregnancy loss is like a 1% chance of having 3 in a row, and all is normal. Like I give up. I don't understand. How could this be? And then it was just a odd time for the whole world that everything shut down and locked down. And I started to spending so much time at home, doing a little bit more meditation and yoga and kind of just tuning into myself. And because I wasn't that interested in trying to get pregnant anymore, funny how that works, I found out in that May I was pregnant, and that was my first daughter. And so that just kind of felt like I couldn't believe it. Like, what a miracle. And I was thrilled. And the whole pregnancy, you still have some anxiety because it felt like, could I still lose this at some point? But I was under the care of that recurrent pregnancy loss clinic, and they monitor you up until you're 12 or 10 weeks. Sorry. So we did ultrasounds at 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks, and blood work, and all was normal. So that felt very reassuring. And she's a beautiful, healthy little girl, and full of energy now at almost 4. And then I think when she was I had returned back to work when she was about 14 months. And it wasn't too long after that we thought maybe we could try again. Because in my head, I thought we should, that keyword should, have kids 2 years apart. So we should start trying. And pretty quickly I got pregnant again. But again, 2 weeks later had lost it. And that was hard because I thought, I now can get pregnant. Everything's normal. Why is this happening? But we, kept going and kept trying. And then it was about, maybe 6 months of trying. And by this time I'm, 36. So there's always that dreadful age of after 35 that you just can't help but get in your head. So I thought, well, BC Women's probably doesn't need to take me back because they did all the testing they could and everything was normal. So I thought about going to a fertility clinic and just seeing what they could do. So I asked my doctor to refer me, and she did. And so the fertility clinic does a bunch of testing to start you off. And, my husband got tested too. Again, everything's normal. And they suggest I could try a prescription drug called letrozole, which basically helps you to ovulate and release extra eggs each month. So, and that's, fortunate in BC, this prescription was covered and their services at this point are covered. So I wasn't having to pay out of pocket, but each month I would go into the clinic and they would do an ultrasound of my ovaries to see how many eggs we're getting or follicles were being released. And every time it looked good, like my body responded pretty well. The side effects were pretty harsh, like intense, like bloating and headaches. And I never felt that well on that medication. After a couple months, even the doctor says, I'm surprised you're not pregnant. This is textbook. And you just think, I'm so used to hearing everything is normal. Why isn't it working? Oh. And I think ended up being on letrozole for 8 rounds, which is a lot. I don't think they probably recommend that because then one of the nurses had flagged it for me. Because at this point too, I also wanted to have a follow-up with the doctor, feeling like I don't feel well on this and it doesn't seem to be working. And so they booked me in for a phone appointment with the doctor. And then that morning I took a positive pregnancy test. So then the conversation shifted with the doctor. So we just talked about, she suggested things like, because of my history, baby aspirin and no exercising and da-da-da-da-da. And let's get your the HCG levels tested. And she had said if it's under 100, that's not really a good sign, but let's just see where we're at. So I got my blood work done and it was 80. It was less than 100. So I was pretty sad from the start and kind of thinking I just think I knew in the back of my head, this isn't going to work either. But we, did the blood test again 2 days later and it doubled. So they thought that was a good sign. But I said, can we keep testing to see where this goes? Because with other pregnancies ahead of my daughter, my HCG would double, but ended in miscarriage. So I didn't feel like that was a really strong indicator. So after a week, I got it tested again and it only doubled once. So the nurse was so sweet and just said, I'm so sorry. And that my body had recognized. So a couple days later, I had passed it. And then the doctor at the fertility clinic said, okay, let's retest. I know BC Women's had done all this testing for you, but I want to do it. So we did another hysteroscopy with a biopsy and, which is not a very comfortable procedure to go through. Lots more blood tests, urine tests. I had learned from your podcast, Jen, that you had a guest on about sperm fragmentation. So suggested okay, and that was something to pay for. So we said, we'll pay for that. My husband will go in and we'll pay because every time he'd gotten his sperm test before, everything's normal. So they do all my testing, his testing, again, all normal. And so the doctor was so kind at the fertility clinic, but basically said, this is all I can offer. The next step is either IVF or so then we can like test the embryos. Or she could refer me to a place in California or Toronto to do like more immune system based testing, because maybe there's something with my immune system. And I just kind of hit a point where I just thought, like, I can't commit to anything. Like, nothing felt right, because we don't know why I'm having miscarriages. So I wasn't prepared for the, emotional, financial, physical toll of IVF when we don't even know why I'm having miscarriages. And I just kind of wanted to leave it. And I think in reflecting back, I just felt so desperate, like really thinking the fertility clinic would be the answer and they would help me. And I just felt like energetically I was grasping. And after that fifth miscarriage, I just, again, kind of wanted to release. And that's where I stumbled. I decided to sign up and be a student of yours, Jen, and stumbled across your fertility yoga, because I was listening to your podcast, but thought, I'm going to do this for me. And your story had really resonated with me. I remember on a podcast you were on where you said a line where you felt like you're really on to something. And I thought, yeah, I think I'd like to try that more, less gripping and grasping and desperation, and more letting go and tuning into my body, which I think yoga and meditation are providing. So at first I felt like I was, using the fertility yoga thinking this will get me pregnant. And after a couple months of it, I think my energy shifted into, it's more about tuning into my body. And that's what I loved the yoga, because it was different sequences for, each week of your cycle. And so I felt like I was able to tune into that. I didn't really have an answer from the fertility clinic, so didn't really want to go forward. I just wanted to leave it for a little bit. And I started doing more acupuncture, meditation and journaling, walking, I love my forest walks, and just doing yoga, and felt like I shifted from the desperation to more maybe like trusting my body and learning its own rhythms and relaxing a little bit more. And it's probably like the worst advice people give, but that letting go, that, when people say like, stop trying, just let it go. It's like, that's the worst advice you could give to someone who's trying. You have to I guess you have to get there yourself, because when I look back at both pregnancies in different ways, I had gotten to a place where I don't know anymore. And so it was less about really urging to I have to get pregnant and get that, to kind of letting it go and being more myself, and kind of enjoying, yes, I still want to get pregnant and I'm still taking the supplements and doing all the things, but I was able to shift more into my body. And then it was in February 2024. So I think I'd been doing yoga for about 6 months that I found out I was pregnant, and I kind of had a good feeling. And this turns out to be my second daughter. So they both ended in wonderful blessings, but it was definitely a colorful journey to get there, with lots of losses, endless testing, figuring things out. And I've had to let it go. No, I don't know the reason why. Will I ever get an answer? No. And now I don't even know if that matters. But it was something I kind of struggled with for a long time. And I think especially now having both of them, it's like, well, what does it really matter, the why? But it was very hard for a while.
Oh,
and that's my colorful story.
It is a beautiful story. I had so many chills at so many stages of you recounting all of that. And there's a lot of similarities with our journeys as well, especially that horrible feeling at the start of 2020 where the world just caved in, and, you're desperate to start or build your family, and you think, I've now lost control completely. I've got nowhere to go from this. And it was such a hard time. I have so many questions for you following all of that as well. But I want to go back to that thing you said about letting go of that control. And you're right. People are so quick to say, as we well know, you just need to calm down a bit more and relax a little bit more. And yeah, no, that's not how it works. It isn't. You need, like you said, to come to it on your own, and you can't make a person get there. And I always think when I work with students, so desperately want to get them to that point, but I can only go halfway. And, the other person has to take that step as well. So how did you actually get into that point where you were like, do you know what? This is going to happen. I'm going to trust that. I'm going to trust my body, and I'm going to let go of that grasping.
I don't know if this is what people want to hear, but I think I finally got to that stage because I had tried to do all the things I thought I had in my control. Like I thought I had in my control to go to these clinics and take the pills and do all the supplements and follow things of, again, felt like they had to be followed perfectly. So is that really like grasping rigid energy, which I heard on another podcast, it's like a masculine energy. And so thinking like shifting into a feminine energy, like what does that mean? And so I think it was because I had tried everything that I thought was in my control. Like, how much do we really have in our control? But in my mind, tried all the things that I thought I had in my control, and none of them worked. Mm-hmm. Nothing worked. And so it just kind of felt like a little bit of like, well, I just have to let it go and then be open to something else. Mm-hmm. And that's where I just became open to yoga and meditation, and that like more relaxing your nervous system than going after something. So shifting into like receiving, I guess, which is more of that like feminine energy. And yeah, I found an incredible acupuncturist who just also really helped me, and I felt very supported by her. So I think it was, I became to that place of letting go because I had tried all the things in my control and there was nothing left to do.
I absolutely love acupuncture as well. And I feel like Chinese medicine and Ayurveda and yoga are all like sister sciences. They blend together so beautifully. And that is one of the things that I always recommend to students as well. And you're right, that masculine energy, and it's sort of really exciting when you are it's not exciting when you're struggling with infertility, but when you have been for a while and then you discover that there are some things that you can do that are within your control, like changing your diet, adding a few different supplements. You can go to a fertility doctor and they're going to have the answers, and you think, yes, I have so much more control. No longer do I just need to leave it up to chance every month. And it's so exciting to think that you can do something about your journey. But for people like yourself who then end up on a journey that goes on for months and years, those things that once were exciting and felt really hopeful within your control, they become so all-consuming. And when they don't work, you don't know what the next step is, because we're told our whole lives that we'll get pregnant the moment we stop using birth control, obviously. And then when that doesn't work, you find something else. And then when that doesn't work, you think, well, I've got no more options. I'm done here. And I was in that place twice with both of my journeys, and I see it, in the majority of the women that I work with. And I just wish there was a way to let people know that there is another way somehow to get them to that point sooner. So what kind of advice would you give to someone who, or even to yourself, say, thinking about your own journey 4 or 5 years ago? Gosh, it was 6 years ago when you started, Kari, wasn't it?
Must have been, because each baby was about 2 years of trying.
Yeah.
And then plus my eldest daughter was 14 months before we started trying again. Yeah. So quite
it's a long time. So what would you say to her from the beginning, before she went down the rabbit hole of trying all the things?
It's like, would I have listened to myself? I don't know. Or would I have done the exact same steps I would have done? But I would like to try to tell myself to, let it go a little bit more and enjoy. Because that was something too, when it's like, I'm not enjoying each day because my mind is so wrapped up in, I need to go find some sort of answer, rather than like, just enjoy the process or trust the process a little bit more. And so maybe if I went back and told myself to give in and trust a little bit more and really tune into my body and take care of my body, not necessarily just for the goal of getting pregnant, but so that I feel good. I hope I'd listen to myself, but I also know some of us who are super type A would still want to be committed to the goal of pregnancy rather than making the shift to being more, I guess, present in your body, right? Because I think that's what yoga helped me do, and letting go. And even like with eating and stuff, it's like I would tune in more to enjoying food rather than feeling like I had to eat food for fertility. So it's just it's like a small shift, but in all areas of your life, you can kind of shift from the one be all end all goal to enjoying a little bit more. Yeah.
It is a small shift, but it has such massive ramifications when you can actually lean into it. And it's funny, isn't it? I also started fertility yoga well before I was a teacher because I thought it'll get me pregnant. That was it. That's why I started it.
Yeah, that's why I started too.
Yeah, I so resonate with that. And that was my goal. I thought, well, I've tried everything. It's COVID. I can't go back to IVF, so this will do. And I went into it with that attitude. And then a couple of months later, I wasn't even looking, but all of a sudden these things started to shift in my life. Like I had chronic insomnia, which literally disappeared. It wasn't like it slowly got better. It just went away completely. It was bizarre. And I would wake up in the morning and this sense of dread had lifted. I'd wake up and think, oh, I'm kind of excited, like my studio is closed. I can't go to work. I just get to kind of hang out at home with my daughter and we can do whatever we want. We've got nowhere to be. It felt nice again just to be in my body and enjoying my life. And I'm sure I was a lot nicer to my husband at this stage as well. Poor bastard. And then it was bigger things that started to shift. Like my cycle became quite regular and quite consistent and, less symptoms of PMS. And then my thyroid started to rebalance and all this stuff started happening. And literally the only thing that I had changed in my life was this yoga practice, which is something I had never done before. And then I fell pregnant. And so it really took me by surprise. And when I noticed all of these little changes, well, big changes really, that's where things shifted for me. So I want to ask you what you noticed within your life. What were the little things or maybe the bigger things that you started to become aware of with these practices?
Oh, and as you're talking too, I just feel like it's all about, like, I keep thinking in my mind, it's really about like calming your nervous system. Because I think when you're trying to like go after it, your nervous system's revved up, which of course impacts your sleep and your hormones. And so I think I noticed the same thing. I was able to sleep better. I wasn't so preoccupied with everything I did had to be done perfectly so I could get pregnant. It just was a little bit of like releasing. And so I think I just relaxed a little bit more. I think because the acupuncture, because I always had a short cycle, and letrozole helped to extend my cycle, but it came with all these symptoms. And the acupuncturist I work with extended my cycle, but I didn't have any of the nasty symptoms. So I think I felt like I was more tuned in to just my general mood, feeling better because I was getting some holistic support, but also doing the support myself through yoga and walking and taking care of myself in a different way that didn't have the goal of just getting pregnant.
I really love what you said there, how you've got all these sort of tools that are helping you with the nervous system regulation. And that's great. And we can do all of those things. We can do the meditation. We can do the 5 minutes of breath work or whatever. But over time, these little tools, they teach you to listen to your body and what you need intuitively. So you no longer have to pull all these tools all the time. Did you feel like that was the case for you?
Definitely, because I would look at things like cycle syncing and thinking I have to do that perfectly rather than keeping it at an arm's length and then tuning into myself. Like, what do I actually want right now? now is the time for ovulation where I do have more energy. So I can go for a run. Or, yeah, now is when I have my period and I do just feel like resting on the couch. So I think it helped me to shift more into myself rather than it's like you're always looking outside for an answer or how you should do things. And that's how you should follow it perfectly. And then you shift to tuning more into yourself. So it really felt like for me along my journey, it was this energetic shift of searching outside for someone's going to give me the answer and someone is going to help me get pregnant to shifting inward.
I really noticed that as well, and I'm not sure. Maybe you can tell me what you think between both of my pregnancies where I had my children, and like you, I struggled with both primary and secondary infertility, and I didn't really learn these tools after my daughter was born, and I feel like you didn't quite either. And then I was I was a bit of a wreck in new motherhood when she was born. It was a massive shock to the system. I mean, every new mother will say that. But I don't really think I ever gave my body and my nervous system time to recover from that pregnancy and that birth. And there's a lot of trauma that goes, 2 years of trying to conceive, I have a similar amount of time to conception with my first daughter as well. We discount what we've been through and not giving yourself that time and space to heal before then going into another journey of trying to conceive. And then when I did eventually find these tools and I fell pregnant eventually with my son, I just felt such a massive shift when he was born compared to my daughter. I was in no hurry to get back to, this stupid idea of fitting into my jeans again or rushing back to work. I went back to work when my daughter was 7 weeks old. And I didn't need to financially. I didn't need to, it was just this weird, that's what I want to do. I have to get back to everything, Why? Why did I think that, And yes, I'm a crazy type A person and, infertility doesn't help that. But then, it was months and months before I went back to work after I had my son. And it was just so blissful to know that my body was not ready and that I was okay with rest and taking a step backwards. And who cares if you don't fit into the pants you want to fit into? There's plenty of time to worry about that. Did you notice any differences between the first and second journeys of your having a little one at home?
I totally resonate with what you're saying. I think with the first one, because also too, and you had said this in another podcast, because I do listen to your podcast.
Thanks.
About some of the emotions that you have in your fertility journey are the same when you get pregnant and become a mom. And I think because I never really resolved the anxiety that I had in trying to get pregnant with my first, I felt pretty anxious throughout that pregnancy. Like, yes, there was always the reassurance, especially at the beginning, of having more consistent ultrasounds and, the 20-week ultrasound and everything's well. And having her was a huge shock and it was very hard. But I noticed, especially reflecting back, I had a lot of postpartum anxiety. So it was just, I was always worried I wasn't doing it right and how it should be, especially when it comes to like sleep and things like that. And then I think with my second, I was actually able to integrate a little bit more those feelings of letting go and surrendering. And because I think I was able to do that a bit better with the second one, I had a little bit more trust. So I trusted this was meant to be, or even if it's a bad outcome again, I trust that it's okay. And so I think that's helped me. I felt way less anxious in my second pregnancy. And now having my second daughter, kind of same, this has been a much easier, it's still hard, but in comparison, easier transition, easier recovery. And I don't feel as pressured to have baby react how they should with like sleep and fussiness. I can just go with the flow a little bit more. It's still hard.
And she's only 6 weeks old. Really,
yeah.
We should have this conversation in another 6 months.
Yes, totally. See how things have shifted. But I just remember with my daughter, I remember like almost kicking myself when she was a month old and you're so sleep deprived and everything's new and thinking like, oh my God, I wanted this. I can't believe that. I tried really hard for this and this isn't the dream come true. And I think with the second, it's kind of like, yes, it is crazy. She is fussy. It will get better. And yeah, so I always laugh that I think the first one was like, oh my God, I wanted this. But now it's like, I do want this.
And
the newborn stage is just hard.
It's so funny. It's nice in hindsight to know that, because when you're in the trenches of that newborn stage, you don't know when you're ever going to get out of it. But at least when you've already got a child, you realize that light is at the end of the tunnel, and it will get better.
Yeah, so that helps me too, knowing that this isn't forever. When I look back, this phase will be really short, so we just have to take it day by day. Yeah,
but thank you.
But I still struggle. Of course, yeah. I'm sorry, I was just going to say, you still struggle mentally, and I find you have to come back to the practices a lot of breathing, trying to let go, self-reflecting, recognizing when you're doing a little bit more of that, grasping the baby should. To just we'll get through this. It doesn't have to be perfect or look perfect, so it's still constant. But I do find I'm able to integrate the practices more this time.
That word should is so powerful, isn't it? And if we could just remove it probably from all of our fertility journeys and all of our pregnancy and new motherhood experiences, life would be a lot simpler. Yeah.
Yes.
Totally. Yeah. But we so forget that we want this pregnancy to be, resulting in the baby. We want it so badly that we kind of forget about, well, what happens when you have the baby? And we think I've got to do this and this and this and this to get that positive test and to stay pregnant. And then you think, well, I've got the baby now. I got everything I wanted, and everything that I've been through is going to be magically resolved. That's what I thought. But no, that isn't how it works. So I really appreciate you sharing that as well.
Yeah.
Oh, Kari, thank you so much for sharing your time and your journey with me today. I feel like I could chat to you for hours and hours. It's just, you've got such a lovely sort of aura about you at the moment. You are probably very sleep deprived and still made the time to come and chat to me, but you can just see the happiness and the joy and the love radiating from you. So I hope that
thanks so much.
People have found this conversation inspiring and has led them to feeling just a little bit of hope. This idea of nothing's wrong, all the tests are normal, they still come back normal, and just really listening to your body and knowing that the next step will present itself, and you can trust that, and you can know that you're making the right decision. And maybe one day your journey will make sense. Maybe it will. Maybe you can look back in 5 years' time and go, well, I went through all of that and now I kind of see where it led me. But maybe we won't. Maybe we'll never understand what we go through. And just to be at peace with that is a journey in itself.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. I've so enjoyed being on your podcast. And like I said, I've so enjoyed the podcast you put out. Being a student of yours and practicing yoga, I can't thank you enough. You've been really helpful to me. So thank you.
Thank you, Kari. You're amazing. Oh, I love that conversation so, so much. I hope that you found it helpful and that it inspired you in some way on your own journey as well. And if you would like to try some of the practices that Kari spoke about on this episode, and you'd like to delve into this idea of using the tools of fertility yoga and meditation and breathwork on your own journey, then come and join me for my free live fertility yoga series at the end of January. So we're starting on the 28th. It's going to be 3 days of live practices where you can come and ask me all of your questions. We'll go through breathwork practices that you can take home and do on your own, how to get into a meditative practice. We'll talk about cycle syncing, regulating your nervous system, and so much more. I would love to have you join me for that. The link is down in the show notes, but you can also go to elementpilatesyoga.com/waitlist. And just a reminder that once we have completed this 3-day live series, which I hope that you'll get so much out of, just on its own. But if you do want to take your practice even further, you have the opportunity to join the In Your Element Fertility Yoga program following this. So this is my signature program. I only open up the doors once or twice a year, depending on numbers. I like to keep the group size quite contained so that I can give as much support and as much involvement into each of my students as I can. So with this, you get access to all of my online programs, the fertility work, but also the prenatal content and the postnatal content to support you throughout your pregnancy. But on top of that, we do weekly live classes and check-ins, weekly assignments to take home to really work on your mindset. And it is a fully comprehensive program. So we don't just work on the mind-body connection, but we work with fertility doctors, fertility naturopaths, nutritionists. We do workshops every month with all of these different industry experts. So you really get the opportunity to go direct to the experts and ask all of your questions. This is something that costs hundreds and thousands of dollars within other programs, but this is something that I intentionally do at a very low cost in comparison to the rest of the fertility industry, I find, because I just don't think you need to spend a fortune to get the benefit from some of these services. So it's so exciting to be able to say that I'm launching this again. I love welcoming new students. So if this is something that you're interested in, pop your name down on the wait list. Join me for my live series at the end of Jan. And if you have any questions, let me know. Now, on the next episode of the podcast, we are talking to Dr. Kayla. She is like the OG of the natural fertility doctors. She's coming on to share all of her expertise about what the medical side of things often won't test for, what they won't check for, are the tests that you can ask for in order to go a little bit deeper into your own health and discover a little bit more about your hormones and what may be going on within your body. So I can't wait to have you back for that episode. But until then, I'm sending you all my wishes as you continue your own journey to fertility. The most common thing I hear from students who are on their fertility journey is that the stress of trying to conceive has taken over their life. Your days end up being filled with endless appointments, navigating pregnancy announcements. You're trying to eat right, take all your supplements, and it is all you think about from the moment you wake up. I designed the Element Fertility Yoga course to support your body, your mind, and your mental health in 3 important ways: to synchronize your hormones, increase circulation and blood flow, and to help regulate your nervous system. But on top of this, the greatest gift that you can give yourself throughout this journey is a sense of peace, to help you calm your mind and just make this process feel easier. Every single one of my students tell me that this is the first thing they notice after starting a yoga, meditation, and breathwork practice. But on top of this, you have the amazing benefit of actually supporting and increasing your fertility. Studies have shown that those participating in mind-body programs as they're trying to conceive have success rates 3 times greater than those who don't. The course I've designed walks you through natural conception as well as fertility treatments and IVF cycles. And the best part is you can work through it at your own pace in the comfort of your home. The practices start from just 10 minutes per day. To learn more, visit elementpilatesyoga.com or see the link in the show notes.